Shockwaves are rippling across the gospel world right now. Bishop Noel Jones, the legendary pastor and brother of Grace Jones, suddenly collapsed in the middle of a sermon, right there on stage, leaving his entire congregation frozen in disbelief and his wife, Loretta, quietly weeping. But what really took place in the moments leading up to this sudden collapse? And why are insiders now insisting this wasn't just a routine health scare, but something much deeper and more serious? Don't go anywhere, because this story only becomes more heartbreaking as it unfolds. Bishop Noel Jones, a towering presence in the world of contemporary gospel ministry, has never been a stranger to controversy or public attention. But what happened this past Sunday shook not only his own church, but the broader faith community. Just moments after preaching a powerful sermon in the heart of his message, the 74-year-old suddenly faltered, clutching his chest before collapsing right in front of hundreds of shocked attendees. Loretta Jones, seated right at the front, rushed toward the pulpit in tears, frantically calling for help as emergency services were contacted. In a matter of minutes, Noel Jones was transported to the intensive care unit, but what happened after that shocked everyone even more. In today's deep dive, we're breaking down everything that led up to this terrifying incident, including what family members close to the bishop are revealing about his health, and how some church insiders now believe this was a long overdue warning that went ignored for far too long. And the behind-the-scenes drama? You won't believe the chaos that's being revealed, especially as certain church board members are now pointing fingers. And trust me, this isn't going in the direction most people expected. Stay with us, because in just a moment, we'll reveal a jaw-dropping moment from inside the hospital, something Loretta Jones did that has left many asking, is there more to this story than anyone is letting on? It began like any ordinary Sunday service at the City of Refuge Church in Gardena, California, the kind of high-energy, spirit-filled worship gathering Bishop Noel Jones was famous for. The sanctuary was packed, gospel music was echoing through the walls, hands were raised in praise, and at the center of it all stood Bishop Jones, delivering a passionate sermon titled, "The Body Can't Carry the Calling." But then everything changed. Eyewitnesses recall that around 30 minutes into the sermon, Bishop Jones began slowing down. His voice, which was normally booming and full of power, started to shake. At first, most thought he was simply caught up in the spirit, something quite common during charismatic preaching. But then his left hand gripped the podium tightly, his right hand moved to his chest. Then suddenly he collapsed. Gasps echoed throughout the sanctuary as the bishop fell backward, knocking over the mic stand. Loretta Jones, seated close to the choir, immediately sprang from her seat and rushed toward him. "Call 911, she shouted, according to one church member. Members of the pastoral staff quickly joined her, trying desperately to keep the bishop conscious. In just a matter of minutes, emergency responders were on the scene. Bishop Jones was unresponsive but still breathing. Paramedics wasted no time, quickly providing oxygen and placing him onto a stretcher. Loretta, weeping uncontrollably by his side, followed closely as hundreds in the congregation broke into hymns, many through their tears, some even falling to their knees in raw desperation, praying aloud. One of the ushers later described the moment as more than just frightening. It felt spiritual, like something far deeper was unfolding. "It felt like we witnessed something we weren't meant to see," the usher confessed. But here's the part they're not telling you. A trusted insider from within the church told our team that just days before the incident, Bishop Noel had been urged to cancel all upcoming sermons due to dangerously high blood pressure and noticeable signs of heart strain. Still, he declined. Why? According to one source, Bishop Noel said, "If I die in the pulpit, I'll die doing God's work." That quote now carries a chilling weight. But before we get into the latest ICU updates and the emotionally intense hospital moments between him and Loretta, we need to rewind, because this wasn't the first indication that something was seriously wrong. What unfolded that Sunday wasn't entirely unforeseen, at least not to those closest to Bishop Noel Jones. For months now, there have been quiet murmurs among the leadership at City of Refuge. Some began noticing subtle shifts, how he walked more slowly to the pulpit or how he occasionally lost his train of thought mid-sermon. Others observed how he leaned more heavily on staff for assistance exiting the stage in private. Some of the senior church leaders reportedly raised red flags. "He's pushing himself too hard," one deacon shared privately. The travel, The preaching load, the weight of leading a megachurch while offering pastoral counseling, it was taking its toll. You could see it, and it wasn't only physical fatigue. Those close to the family revealed that Bishop Jones had been silently battling hypertension, persistent exhaustion, and early indicators of cardiac strain. One insider even revealed that in the past year, the bishop suffered 2 minor episodes where he briefly blacked out but dismissed them as simple dehydration or stress. Yet Bishop Jones pressed on. Just a few weeks ago, he returned from a grueling 3-city revival tour across Texas and Georgia. In one of the church's social media clips, you can spot him repeatedly wiping his brow and pausing more than usual small. But unmistakable signs that something was wrong. So why didn't he ease up? The answer may be rooted in the very essence of who Bishop Noel Jones is. Known for his relentless devotion to the ministry, he's long been dubbed the Iron Man of gospel preaching. Even well into his 70s, he flat out refused to slow down. In one past interview, he boldly declared, "I'll rest when the Lord calls me home." But some believe there was more behind his persistence than just spiritual passion. Behind closed doors, financial strain, ongoing health concerns, and internal tension within the church leadership may have all been bearing down on him. Since merging his ministry into the larger City of Refuge organization, there's been quiet. Talk of conflict among board members, alleged mishandling of funds, and even issues keeping up with certain church property mortgage payments. All of that pressure on top of his non-stop speaking engagements became a ticking time bomb. And where was Loretta in all of this? Insiders say she'd been pleading with him to slow down for months. A close family friend told us that just 2 weeks ago, Loretta was in tears, begging Bishop Jones to see a specialist. But being the stubborn man of faith he was, he reportedly replied, "God will keep me. I'm covered." Tragically, her worst nightmare unfolded right in front of her, but it doesn't stop there. There's something even more haunting. A hospital worker, speaking under strict confidentiality, revealed that Bishop Noel may have disregarded clear medical instructions just 48 hours before his dramatic collapse. And once you hear what they told him, your jaw will drop. As the ambulance pulled away from the church sirens, screaming and lights flashing, Bishop Noel Jones was drifting in and out of consciousness. Sources from inside the hospital revealed that his blood pressure was at dangerously elevated levels, and his heart was showing clear signs of extreme stress. He was taken directly to the intensive care unit at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. But what occurred after he got there wasn't what Loretta or the church family had been expecting. According to a nurse who was working that night, Bishop Jones suffered what's known as a hypertensive emergency, a condition in which blood pressure surges to life-threatening levels and starts damaging internal organs. If not treated immediately, it can be fatal. And this is where it gets chilling. Hospital staff confirmed that just 48 hours before his collapse, Bishop Jones had come to the same hospital complaining of dizziness and chest pain. After running several tests, doctors reportedly recommended he remain overnight for observation, warning him about irregular heart rhythms. But Jones said no. He told us he had to preach, the nurse shared. He literally said, "The people need me this Sunday," and walked right out of the hospital. Loretta reportedly was heartbroken when she found out about this decision. A close friend who later visited her in the hospital said she was crying uncontrollably, repeating the same words over and over. I told him this would happen." Family members were quickly contacted, and in the hours that followed, several important people arrived at the ICU: siblings, trusted friends, and even church board members. The atmosphere was heavy, emotions ran high. What unfolded inside those hospital walls was a storm of grief, heartbreak, and difficult conversations. One insider said a doctor met with Loretta and the family privately in a closed-door meeting and delivered the most sobering update yet. Bishop Jones hadn't only suffered a hypertensive crisis. Doctors had also discovered early signs of congestive heart failure, progressive condition that doesn't just resolve over time. He's been running on fumes for years, the doctor reportedly told them. And now his body has reached the breaking point. The words hit Loretta like a freight train. Witnesses say she collapsed into her chair, struggling to catch her breath as tears flowed down her cheeks. Church staff rushed to comfort her, but the reality was impossible to ignore. The man she loved, the pastor she had stood The side for over 20 years had disregarded every warning. And now, the consequences might be irreversible, but that's not all. What truly shocked everyone in the room was the discovery of a private letter. Reportedly found by Bishop Jones' assistant in his study following the collapse, the letter was handwritten and marked for Loretta only. It was quietly delivered to her at the hospital, though the contents of the letter remain private. A source close to the family suggested it may include final instructions, possibly even a plan to resign from ministry and a heartfelt apology to Loretta for not listening sooner. But as Loretta sat by his bedside, gently holding his hand and whispering prayers into his ear, a doctor entered with a proposal that froze everyone in the room. What he said next had the power to completely reshape Bishop Noel Jones' future in ministry and in life. As midnight passed at Cedars-Sinai, the ICU waiting area was anything but calm. Church members rotated in and out, and at one point, hospital security had to be called in to manage the surge of emotional visitors. Inside room 514, Bishop Noel Jones lay sedated, connected to 4 lines and heart monitors, with his vitals being tracked minute by minute. Then, something happened that shifted the mood entirely. At exactly 1:12 a.m., the lead cardiologist entered the room where Loretta, close family, and 2 key leaders from the church board had gathered. According to someone who was there, the doctor didn't hold anything back. "If he keeps going at this pace," the doctor said, "he won't survive the next incident. His heart can't take another collapse. His body is breaking down. You need to seriously consider putting him on permanent medical leave, immediately." The room went completely silent. Loretta, still visibly shaken, nodded in agreement. She didn't need convincing. But not everyone saw eye to eye. A senior board member reportedly pushed back, asking, "Are we talking about a temporary sabbatical or full retirement?" Bishop Noel Jones is more than just a man, he's a brand. And that's when the real fractures within the ministry began to surface. Behind the curtain, a growing power struggle had been brewing within the City of Refuge leadership. Some factions had quietly been urging Bishop Noel to hand over the reins, especially after recent controversies involving disorganized events, delayed staff payments, and a noticeable drop in attendance during midweek services. But now, with Bishop Noel incapacitated and his doctors recommending that he fully step down from preaching, those quiet tensions suddenly exploded. One insider revealed to us they started making moves that very night. Calls were placed, emails went out. Certain individuals saw this as their opportunity to finally take control, while Loretta was still at her husband's bedside in prayer. Others, meanwhile, were already laying out plans for a future without him. And this is where things got even more intense. Church bylaws reportedly state that if the senior pastor is medically unable to fulfill his duties for more than 30 consecutive days, a transition committee can be formed to temporarily assume leadership. That clause, originally written as a protective backup, was now being turned into a tactical tool for power. By the next morning, rumors had already begun circulating in the church's private group chats. Is Bishop stepping down? Was it really a heart attack? Is Pastor Ray going to take over? Where's Loretta now? And while all of this was unfolding, Loretta herself made a move that surprised even those closest to her. Despite her emotional exhaustion, she requested a private meeting with the hospital chaplain and her legal team. While the full details of that meeting remain undisclosed, sources close to the situation claim Loretta may be considering taking legal steps to protect Bishop Jones' legacy and final wishes, especially in case any leadership power plays attempt to override his intentions. Some are even speculating that she might release parts of the handwritten letter Bishop Jones had left behind, not just as a private message for her, but as a guiding statement to the entire church body. But just as the dust was beginning to settle, Bishop Noel Jones made a sudden move that left everyone in the room stunned. Though barely conscious, his hand twitched, and what he whispered next left Loretta, the doctors, and church leaders absolutely speechless. It was nearly 36 hours after the initial collapse when Bishop Noel Jones finally opened his eyes. Hospital room was dim, machines softly beeping in the background. Loretta had hardly left his side, clutching his hand, praying into his ear, her eyes red and swollen from tears and sleeplessness. Then his fingers moved. Loretta gasped. A nurse leaned in gently and tapped his shoulder. "Bishop, can you hear me?" He blinked and a faint yes slipped out. But what followed wasn't just a sigh of relief, it was a turning point that would redefine everything. According to Loretta and a close family member who was present, Bishop Noel slowly turned his head, looked into Loretta's eyes, and whispered something that made her immediately burst into tears. "I'm sorry I didn't listen." Those words broke the silence and shattered Loretta's heart. Witnesses say she leaned in, kissed his forehead gently, and whispered back, "You're still here. That's all that matters." Though still incredibly weak, the bishop reportedly continued speaking as doctors adjusted his oxygen levels. When the cardiologist asked him about his future plans, Noel Jones responded in a faint, raspy voice, "The people need a shepherd? But maybe it's time to teach them how to walk without me." Those words hung heavy in the air. Was this the beginning of the end of his pastoral journey? That moment carried deep symbolism. For the first time, Bishop Jones wasn't just confronting his own mortality, he was openly acknowledging it. And beyond that, he seemed ready to let go. Loretta, who'd stood by him for over 2 decades through public backlash, postponed wedding plans, and years of ministry pressure, told a nurse afterward, "I knew he loved the church, but I didn't realize he loved it more than his own life." But here's where the story takes yet another emotional twist. Before the doctors could even lay out the next steps for recovery, Bishop Jones made a stunning request. "Bring me a notepad." Barely strong enough to grip the pen, he slowly began drafting what insiders suspect might be a farewell letter or a transitional document. Some believe it's a heartfelt message meant for his congregation. Others think it may be a detailed plan for succession. Whatever it contains, that notepad is now locked away in a safe, reportedly under Loretta's close watch. At the same time, news of Bishop Jones regaining consciousness began to spread across the congregation and throughout the wider faith community. Social media lit up instantly. Followers, supporters, and fellow gospel icons, including Kirk Franklin, Donnie McClurkin, and even his sister Grace Jones, began flooding Twitter with tributes, emotional prayers, and messages of disbelief. Within hours, the hashtag pray for Bishop Jones was trending. But while the world lifted him in prayer, church leadership was scrambling behind the scenes. While some members of the board were genuinely relieved that Bishop had pulled through, others quickly shifted focus to logistics. "Can he be back by next month?" One assistant pastor reportedly asked. "Do we announce a retirement or frame it as just a recovery plan?" Another inquired. The pressure was mounting fast, and Loretta wasn't having any of it. Insiders say she stood her ground in a closed-door meeting, making it clear his health takes priority, not the platform. "He is not going back to that pulpit until he's completely healed," she allegedly told them. "And even then only if he wants to." For the first time in a long while, Loretta Jones appeared to be firmly taking charge of the narrative, not just as his wife, but as his fiercest protector. But just as things started to calm down, a new wave of controversy hit. A church staff member known for stirring the pot leaked a voice note, allegedly recorded just weeks before Bishop Jones collapsed. The recording implies that Bishop may have already been aware of the severity of his condition, and still chose not to speak on it publicly. So just as the church community was beginning to exhale in relief, a fresh storm was quietly on the rise. Was a storm that threatened to unravel years of unity and spiritual trust within the walls of the city of Refuge. And it all began with a leak. Late Thursday night, a voice memo appeared in a private group chat among church staff, and by Friday morning, it had already made its way across social media. The clip, just over 3 minutes in length, was allegedly recorded during a closed-door leadership meeting just 2 weeks before Bishop Jones' collapse. In the audio, which we've reviewed, a voice sounding nearly identical to Bishop Noel Jones can be heard saying, "I've been feeling dizzy lately. There's something happening in my chest. But I'm not stopping now. I've made peace with God. If I fall preaching." Gasps, silence. Then another voice believed to be a staff member chimes in with concern. "Bishop, that's dangerous. Maybe we should cancel the next 3 Sundays." But he cuts in firmly, "No, let the word go forth. I don't want sympathy, I want strength." While Bishop Jones' representatives haven't officially confirmed the authenticity of the recording, multiple church leaders have privately acknowledged that this exact conversation took place, and that they chose to remain silent out of reverence for his spiritual authority. But now, that silence is under fire. The leaked recording has sparked division across the congregation, fueling online debates and heated conversations behind the pulpit. On one side are the loyalist supporters who defend Bishop Noel's unwavering devotion to his calling, hailing him as a spiritual warrior who chose divine purpose over self-preservation. But on the other side, many are voicing serious concerns, calling his actions reckless, irresponsible, and even manipulative. One former staff member took to Facebook Live and said, "You don't get to gamble with your life when you're leading thousands. That pulpit is sacred, but so is accountability." Some are now calling for a full investigation into the church's internal decisions, demanding answers. Who knew? What did they know, and why didn't anyone step in? Throughout all of this, Loretta has remained silent, her only public message. Brief Instagram post featuring a black screen with the words, "Thank you for the prayers." He's still fighting. But sources inside the church say Loretta has been privately outraged over the leak and over how certain church leaders are now using her husband's name to push their own agendas. She's also reportedly considering stepping into an official leadership role, or at the very least, addressing the congregation herself once Bishop Jones is stable enough. As for Bishop Noel, doctors say the road ahead is going to be long and challenging. He faces an extended cardiac rehab process, major medication adjustments, and likely permanent changes to his lifestyle. One physician close to his care noted, even if he recovers physically, the emotional and mental toll from this will leave a lasting scar. There's still no clear word on whether Bishop Jones will return to the pulpit, retire for good, or transition into a mentorship or emeritus position. But one thing is certain, this collapse has triggered a reckoning. Not only with his personal health, but with the entire foundation, transparency, and direction of the ministry he built.